Now, for 2 months, Nicaragua has been riven by violent clashes. President Daniel Ortega, the veteran revolutionary whose Sandinista rebels overthrew the violently repressive Somoza regime in 1979, says protesters are trying to engineer a coup d'etat. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, part of the Organization of American States, though, says the killing at least 212 people and the injuries suffered by more than 1,300 others are mainly the result of the state's repressive actions. Earlier today, a retired army officer died as anti-government protesters in La Trinidad clashed with riot police trying to remove their roadblocks. The Catholic Church is attempting to broker peace talks with the opposition demanding early elections in the hope that voters will bring an end to the Ortega presidency. It's extremely rare for the Nicaraguan government to give interviews to media organisations like the BBC. Paul Oquist Kelly, an American by birth and who became a Nicaraguan citizen because of his passion for the Sandinista cause, is a cabinet minister and one of President Ortega's closest allies. He's touring Europe to put the record straight, as he describes it, accusing media, including the BBC, of misreporting what's happening. So when he came into the World Tonight studio, I asked Mr Oquist Kelly what his explanation is for the upsurge of violence.
The first day, there wasn't violence. There was a demonstration against Social Security reform. And quite frankly, the police overreacted. There was excess police violence in the confrontation with the students. But the coup d'etat people, they were visible the first day with their fake news to create hate, place blame on the government, and instill fear. The second day of the demonstrations, there were deaths, 2 demonstrators and 1 policeman in a clash. Very lamentable. Every death in Nicaragua is a tragedy. And, you know, after the president rescinded the Social Security reform, it didn't make any difference.
Do you think that might have been a catalyst for underlying pressures that actually dissatisfaction and discontent has been building up for some time?
Well, that existed, but there was also people looking for a coup d'etat. And, you know, they say that they would form a provisional government. Named by whom? Named by themselves.
We're jumping ahead a bit, talking about provisional governments in the future.
The thing is,
what about what's happening now on the streets?
You have to realize that Nicaragua is a polarized society. They're polarized among the politicized people. The people in the middle of Nicaragua, like most countries, are trying to eke out a living. And in the case of Nicaragua today, in very difficult circumstances, the anarchy in which common crime with impunity.
What's causing it? Why has the state lost control? Is it possible that people have lost respect?
These blockades are aimed at overthrowing the government. And they are not peaceful demonstrations. I would like to give you just one example. There was a Sandinista by the name of Arauz Pineda and another fellow clearing out the blockades in eastern Managua. They were shot. Arauz Pineda's body is on the street. They come up and they douse him in gasoline and burn his body.
Terrible thing. You'd agree with me, I think, that you would agree with me that these people are thugs, yes? How is it acceptable?
It's an atrocity.
How is it acceptable when that is done by people wearing the police uniform?
They don't do that.
No, hang on. No, I'm sorry. Let me quote to you.
That is insidious.
Let me quote to you.
The only person burned has been Arauz Pineda by these people.
I'm not saying they did that. I'm saying Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, 22nd of June report. It says that in the cases where people were detained, the use of cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment against most of those who were detained, which in some cases crossed the torture threshold. This is by the forces of the government, the forces who are answerable to the government.
The police who have been captured and kidnapped by the peaceful demonstrators have been stripped naked.
You're not answering my question,
tied to trees.
are you?
I'm going to tell you, let me get to my punchline.
Please.
They were stripped naked, tied to posts and tortured.
If the state uses violence against the people, that is of a different quality to thugs and criminals doing it. Because it has the authority of the state.
If you only look at state actors and you do not look at non-state actors, none of these atrocities that I'm mentioning, I could go on with the list of atrocities, appear in these reports. I'm saying we have to cease the violence on both sides.
So what are you doing to stop it?
Both sides.
Are you prosecuting these police officers who've been torturing the demonstrators who've been detained?
The government has invited the forensic experts of the Inter-American Human Rights Commission
who wrote this report,
to accompany the Parliamentary Commission on Truth, Justice, and Peace, and the Nicaraguan prosecutors in going through case by case to determine responsibilities. And where there are criminal responsibilities, the prosecutors will press charges.
So you don't contest this report?
I'm saying that the only way to get to the bottom of this is through serious investigations.
When you were a young man, when you were passionate about your cause in believing what the Sandinista were doing, you believed that the state using violence against civilians was wrong. You are now doing what 40 years ago you thought was obscene.
You are saying that these non-state actors are going to get off scot-free, that the government and the police are the ones who have to bear the responsibility and not them. I'm saying the responsibility is on both sides. We need national reconciliation.
And talks have begun again, haven't they, between the Civil Alliance and the government, brokered by the Catholic Church?
We not only need peace, we need national reconciliation. Yes. It's a small country of 6 million people. The tourism has been blown out of the water. The tourists won't come for years. After the war in the 1980s, it took us a better part of a decade to get out of the reputation of a violent country.
Let me ask you about these peace talks. The Alliance has said what it would like to see is the elections that are scheduled for 2021 to be brought forward to March 2019. Is President Ortega prepared to consider that?
President Ortega has stated that there is nothing that can't be put on the table if the violence ceases.
The most recent violence we had was at the weekend, where it's reported that 2 people died. One of those who died was a street vendor, and he was shot. He got caught up in some crossfire. His father, Luis Ortiz, this is what he told the news agency AFP. He said, "I never imagined my son could die in the hands of someone with whom I fought so hard. I gave my sweat and my blood. I am still a Sandinista, but not with Daniel."
Crossfire, you said yourself it was a crossfire. All of the deaths are tragic. None of the deaths are justified.
You don't think it matters
Nicaragua
to the image of the Sandinistas?
The violence so that people stop dying. There's another situation.
You're not interested. He blames the president for his son's death. Doesn't that worry you? Doesn't that upset you?
What does the president have to do with the crossfire? Give me a break.
There's a lot of anger, apparently, about the role of Rosario Murillo, the vice president, who happens to be Mr. Ortega's wife and has been his wife for many, many years. Is it healthy to have the president and the vice president as a married couple? Is that very democratic, do you think?
You keep intervening in Nicaraguan politics. The Nicaraguan people elected them.
You don't think that's
with
nepotism?
72% of the vote,
nepotism?
And that was congruent to all of the media. So what's important is what the Nicaraguan people want.
Because you see, the Somozas was a family business.
Not what you want and not your criticism,
the
but what the
Somozas were a
Nicaraguan
family
people
business,
want.
not a government, and that's the criticism now of Mr. Ortega. That he's gone from revolutionary to a man who has basically enjoyed the benefits of the state, spreads them to his family, and that does not benefit the ordinary people.
The economy has been growing at 4.6% for 7 years. External direct investment increased 5-fold. The tourism was taking off. Extreme poverty had been decreased from 17% in 2005 to 6% in 2016. I'll tell you something. I have been a Sandinista since 1969, and I had a lot of friends die, of course, in the 70s and in the 80s, and in the war against Reagan CIAs, Contras, and everything like that. And at the end of that, the victory was survival. We couldn't achieve the objectives of the revolution. So in this stage, to see extreme poverty being cut in half in the second poorest country in Latin America and the Caribbean is like achieving the goals for which so many people died. But we couldn't because the aggression made survival the objective.
Are we back where you were in, if you like, at the end of 1979 when you took over?
We had an 11-year role.
Now you've got to survive against
We had an 11-year role to achieve those objectives which have objectively transformed Nicaragua.
That's Paul Oquist Kelly from the Nicaraguan government.